All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas from AirUp.
And I'm Bogdan from DigitalGenius. And today we'd like you to tell the story of how we got to 80% of customer service automation using AI.
All right, and before we kick in, we know it's the hardest time now because you had lunch. I hope you all feel comfortable. Who's tired right now? Hands up, please. Okay, we will change this in a second. Who of you knows what AirUp is or have heard about AirUp already? Quickly. Oh, still many people. For all of you who raised their hands, 20 seconds to check the emails. For all the others, in a nutshell, what we do.
AirUp is flavor for your water, but through scent alone. It is sweetness for the soul, but completely without sugar. Now you can finally have water and taste in a healthy way. You just have to give it a try.
Oh my God!
Search now for the flavor that clicks with you. AirUp.
That's exactly it. AirUp has been invented by Tim and Lena, two students, 6 years back, Munich University in Germany. And what they did is they invented Scent Taste, a technology that enables us that you can drink pure water without anything inside and still experience flavor. And this works with this pot on top of this bottle. So how this works is you have a straw inside this bottle, you fill it with water, you sip on the straw, and while you zip, the water comes into your mouth, but the air rotates through this pot and takes along that flavor that is in this pot. And as you have seen, right, you can take coconut, peach, iced tea, whatever you like. And we're now 5 years later, but we're still on a journey. So we're not a startup anymore, we're a scale-up. We have our headquarters in Munich. We are available in 14 countries amongst the US. We have 250 employees, and super important, our pots are produced in the Netherlands. Our bottles are produced in Austria. Our flavors are made in Germany. So it's all European made. And today, Bogdan and me will tell you a little bit how we did our journey when it comes to automation and personalization. Also like to mention that we're still quite good with our customers. We have more than 5 million customers already at AirUp, but this is not a guarantee for success, because what still happens to us, and probably to all of you, is this. Would give no stars if I could. Or my favorite one, by the way, heading customer engagement. Yeah, terrible customer service. And if you read this, then you may think, what did I do wrong? Probably not that much, because sometimes just customers need to put out their frustration on Trustpilot. But anyway, if this is not working well, if your customer care is not working properly, you may get into trouble. Or, with other words, they scream at us, they tell us how shitty we are. And yes, we suck. We are aware that we sometimes suck. But our customers suck as well, because they sip on our bottles and they suck water and having taste. And many of those feedbacks that you read here in Trustpilot are, of course, because we have some troubles in our customer journey. And what could go wrong in our customer journey? Bogdan, this is probably a question for you, right?
Yes, so we work with a lot of e-commerce companies, over 100 now, and we've seen the same type of customer experience. When you buy something online, it's just fundamentally way more complicated when you buy something in store. Like imagine you want to buy a t-shirt, you walk in, you try it on, maybe you ask a few questions, you pay, you're done. Online, once you pay, the journey just begins. You might have placed a duplicate order by mistake. Maybe you've forgotten to update your address. And then there's this whole waiting time to get your order. And when a lot of packages actually get lost, or customers don't get them on time for maybe an important event, like a present for someone. Finally, you managed to try it on. Turns out that was the wrong size you've ordered. Now you need to go through the return or exchange process. And only finally, once you've received the refund for one of the items that you've returned, the customer journey completes. At each of those steps, for different e-commerce companies, multiple things go wrong for their users. On average, from what we see, the contacts to orders ratio is about 20%. So 1 in 5 orders leads to some customer frustration, some poor customer experience, and it's how we handle that poor customer experience so to ultimately determine, will they come back and buy from you again?
And this may even get worse, right? In peak season, for example.
So as many of you have experienced, probably Black Friday is coming up, especially if you're in e-commerce. That's what I call the PTSD time for e-commerce customer service managers. Everything just gets 10 times worse. The warehouse starts shipping things much slower. On top of that, the carriers start losing even more things. The delays just multiply. It's the perfect shitstorm of the customer experience. And of course, to also handle the increase in volume, as a customer service manager, you end up hiring a lot of people. Are they good people? Well, you just hire them for a couple of months, so they probably don't really give much about their job. And it's hard to train them. And then you need to do it over and over again. So that just creates this cyclical challenge, a perfect nightmare, I would say, for the end users, but also for you managing that whole storm.
Question to you. You have seen the journey. You have seen potential problems. Maybe let's do 3 main categories of questions. Who of you, or better to say, who of your customers reached out to you already with, where's my order problems? Okay, 4 people in e-commerce, 5. Nice, okay. Who of you, customers, reached out to you already with refund or return problems? Okay, and now, master 1, product issues. Okay, cool, here we go. Come to this later, right? So this was the interactive part of the show. Now you can sit back and have popcorn again. Because Bogdan and me would love to tell you a little bit of how we did this within AirUp. And there are many companies that tell us, hey, you need to be customer-centric, the customer needs to be in your thoughts, and when you do your planning, customer needs to be involved. We do the same, so no surprises here. But we at least try to also put the customer into our actions. And how we're going to do this is quite simple. The philosophy that I used here was I always try to balance science and technology. But because even though you have seen many of the AI trends this morning already, we still need human beings. It is not working without them, but we need to find a well-balanced and a good mix of how we synchronize humans and technology. And if you manage this, then you are probably on a very, very good setup as of today. So our journey and our AirUp journey with customer engagement started in 2020. This was also the year when we started selling the first bottles online in Germany. And here we had a web shop and 1 single email address, and my team consists of 2 people, nothing else, 5 years back, 4 years back. And then I decided to get into marriage with DigitalGenius. And we started here to first had all the basic implemented, FAQ page, contact forms, but we also started to implement AI in the first emails. I come to this in a second. And 2022, we already started experimenting with button-based chatbots from our helpdesk provider customer before we launched the first generative AI in chats last year, and now rolled it out even in emails. And this is what we're going to show you today, or what I will show you today. 4 years back, when we got engaged and married, we started integrating AI into emails. And this was, the way we did it was quite simple. We tried to figure out what are the leverages that had the biggest impact, right? So for us, it was, we are e-commerce. It was, where's my order? It have been the product issues, have been return problems. So what we did is like we implemented DigitalGenius into our email system. What it did was at this time, it was like detecting intents. So we were able to see like, okay, this is, where's my order? This is product issue. You can route it to different teams. You can treat it differently. You can start a feedback loop by adding contact reasons. So this have been the basics that we started with. And we always did the same. We tested a scenario, we wrote it out, we iterated up on it, and once it was successful, we simply took the next scenario and tried out this. And then there was the time when we said like, okay, now out of emails, we want to go into the next iteration. We wanted to start the iteration with chatbots. And here, this is probably something that Bogdan can tell you way better than I can. We started first with a button-based chatbot, and then we went to generative chatbot. But I think, Bogdan, this is yours.
I hope your wife is not watching this. How many times you said we are married? Who here hates chatbots? Right, so me too. Why did I start the chatbot company? Well, because I wanted to fix that. This is like a timeline of different generations of chatbot technology. It all started with those button-based chatbots where you get into a decision tree. It's a bit like driving your grandparents' car. Like it might get you there, but it might get broken 3 times on the way there. After that, we got some AI into those chatbots. It became a little bit better. It might understand some of your natural language. However, what's the problem with most chatbots? They don't actually solve your problem. They might point you to the same return portal you already have access to. They might give you a tracking link, but they rarely actually do complicated actions and address your fundamental issue that's causing you to speak to customer service. So when we started DigitalGenius, we realized that, and we built a platform around making conversational AI integrated with the business processes and all the different systems, what we call deep integrations. So the chatbot can actually cancel your order, change your address, give you a replacement, rather than just have those meaningless conversations or buttons that you just get lost with. And obviously, finally, everyone's talking about Gen AI. Gen AI is the next generation of conversational AI. It still doesn't solve the problem of how do you cancel an order. However, it makes it extremely easy for you to naturally interact, just like with ChatGPT. And that is the latest generation of combining those two. So let's look at some examples. This is the first grandpa's car version of a chatbot, which we call buttons-only chatbot. This is actually a Samsung chatbot out there. So as you can see, there is no way for me to type. I have to go through these endless menus. And many times, if you click at the beginning at the wrong option, which often happens because it's too broad, you can't get out. And then it just gives you some links to the tracking page or somewhere else. It's a useless bot. You just want to quickly escape, chat to an agent as quickly as possible. Now, some companies out there have a combination of buttons and the text area. So this is Nike chat. I hope there's not many Nike people in the room. You can type here some questions. The most basic question for e-commerce business, where is my order? So guess what it's going to respond with? Oops, didn't understand that. Sounds a bit familiar, isn't it? Essentially, the text box there is just to, I guess, annoy you, because it doesn't do shit. Yeah, you can click on those, again, buttons, get lost into those decision trees, but whatever you type, it just ignores that. I mean, I'm going to move on. So the next piece here is actually a chatbot that can understand your messages. This is a company called Next. So I typed how they return my items, and it finally understood that and gave me an answer. However, as we're going to see, it's going to respond with, again, a bunch of options, a bunch of buttons, and still point me to some carrier website, like in this case, Royal Mail, for me to do it myself at Royal Mail website. I might already try that. I'm here maybe already because it's not working. Maybe the order number there is failing. And if you have any other question, which is a little bit outside of the normal use cases, like what's the return window? It doesn't have generative AI to actually respond. Just, again, our favorite chatbot response. Sorry, I don't understand. What countries do you ship to? Guess what the response is? Oops, surprise. So this is the old generation of conversational AI, but no generative. Doesn't even understand what AI is. No surprise. So the difference between what we call deep integrations And the typical chatbot, for an example, which is very small order, the typical chatbot will tell you, here's the tracking link. It might also be generative. It might have a conversation with you about the weather or the upcoming elections or whatever else you want. But it doesn't have the deep integrations to understand that actually you checked already the tracking link, and on the tracking link, the package is not moving. And it just, again, passes you to an agent. By having those deep integrations verticalized for e-commerce, we can automatically detect directly from the carrier all the history of all the events and see, even though FedEx in this case says it's in transit, the package hasn't moved for like 7 days. We know it's never going to move again. We're not going to tell the customer, oh yes, check the tracking link. It's still in transit. Instead, we tell the customer, sorry, it looks like it's lost. Do you want a refund or replacement? And by having further integrations, we can raise an investigation with those carriers and actually perform a refund or replacement. This is the difference in experience from the customer point of view, but also from the brand perspective. Here, you can actually resolve a lot of those conversations without an agent, versus without integrations, you'll end up passing to an agent a lot of those conversations. And finally, this is how it comes together in the DigitalGenius chatbot, where you have both the Gen AI, which is specific to e-commerce, and the deep integrations. So first of all, look, there's no buttons. We don't need buttons anymore. We've done a lot of studies where our customers moved from having some buttons and the text box and having 0 buttons, and all the metrics increased when you just remove the buttons. Why? Because users stop clicking on their own button and actually express what they're looking for. Like in this case, I ordered my order, but it doesn't seem like it's moving. So the bot responds back, okay, tell me more, like what's your order number? What's your email? I provide my email address. It's smart enough to understand that there is no order number. So it's going to ask now about order number. Now, in a more typical chatbot that doesn't use Gen AI, if I say something out of the script, like give me 1 moment, it will break again. This is the problem of the old chatbots. They would always break if you don't follow the script. But using Gen AI, you can have a supernatural conversation, just like with the customer service agent or just like with ChatGPT. However, you can still connect it with deep integration. So in this case, it can read the data from the carriers and determine that that parcel is stuck. And I'm sorry it's been stationary for such a long time. Would you like a refund or replacement? Versus giving me a useless tracking link where I can already see something's off there. However, we don't give access to generative AI directly to do refunds or replacements. We have a flow component, which is rules-based. So the AI doesn't decide tomorrow who to give a refund or who not to give a refund. That is rules-based. But the conversation is not. The conversational flow is free of decision trees. You can switch topics. Here again, I can tell, let me think about it. Or I can ask a question, how long will the replacement take? It's not in the decision tree. The only decision tree is the policy that you want to be always correct, like who's eligible for the refund or replacement. And again, in this case, because we have the guardrail of the flows, we can give it access to perform sensitive actions like replacements. And that's what they've done today. And this is an example that we have automated for many customers, Arab included. Now, like customers get refunds, replacements, discount codes through the chatbot. All sensitive actions, but through generative AI guardrailed by those flows. Over to you, Thomas.
And we were able to implement this as well. And the good thing about this is that we also added our own tone and voice to it, right? You can define it. Now you have seen this example, more formal style. If you're a more young company like we are, for young generation, you can also sometimes add emotions to things like this. And this is funny because this is a real Arab conversation. It was about a product recommendation. And the customer said then to the chatbot, oh, you're the most loveliest AI I've ever seen. And the customer sent tons of hearts. And the AI said, like, you're the sweetest thing. My cheese get as red as your strawberry pots. Here we are, right? It connected it with our product, and it also adds the emotions. It also adds, again, all of those hearts. And it's something that you can define. And the cool thing is, you define this once, and it's executed all the time. Because I don't think that any human advisor, maybe a few, would be able, in such a situation, to react the same. right? You always need to be super present to interact with your customers on this level. And this is what it makes so super powerful if you add generative and drive personalization with this.
What about some examples when the user might be super frustrated and come up with a very complicated threat to you?
I wanted to bring this at the end, but this is cool. We had no script today as well, right? So we are fully generative. Try to answer this question for you, Bogdan. Okay, this was one of my examples I remember the most because it was that really, really bad. And I told him once on the phone, he said like, tell this on stage, it's worth it. Okay, the bottles are quite fancy, and when you are on social, then many people come and say like, hey, can I have a bottle for free? And in social, they are quite kind. In chat, they aren't. At least what they did is like, hey, give me an air bottle for free, or I will send you over all my lawyers. And at this moment, right, if you are not in protocol, probably a human agent would need to go out and have a cigarette and calm down first. The AI handled it super smooth, just like, hey guy, put your guns down, we will find a way. And then it really started with just pure conversation to calm down this person, and the customer simply sometimes then quit the chat at the end. But there was like, no, the agent was not nervous because the agent was the machine, right? The machine could handle thousands of those dialogues in parallel, wouldn't even matter. The human agents would probably get into stress in such a situation. So this is about tone and voice and how you can make this. And then we went one step further, as I said. A few months back, Rakta, 2-3 months back, we started to integrate, Rakta's my team, by the way, we integrated generative AI into emails. And also here, just not for everything, but there where it makes sense, right? And this is an example which shows the power of generative AI in emails. We received one email from Angela, it's very small, but Angela managed to ask 4 questions in 3 sentences. And when you have normal AI in emails, the AI usually pick one and answers to this one. But which one? First, second, third? What you can be sure with is that the customer will get back to you, and then it needs to be handled by a human being. So with Gen AI, we managed to answer all of the 4 questions according to what we feed within our knowledge base within 2 minutes. And the customer was quite happy because did not get back to us anymore. So this is also, when you implement it well, it's nice. And now also, it's all nice, many hearts, but we also did our learnings. And trust me, there's been a few. So once we changed from button flow chatbot to generative chatbot, we got immediately more volumes. We were like, oh my God, why? We figured it out because it was so easy. As Bogdan said, there were no barriers. People did not get frustrated. They simply could chat with this machine. Children started to play with it. So we had way more dialogues to handle. We were not prepped for it. So we needed also here more advisors first until we defined the sweet spot of when a dialogue needs to be handed over to an agent. Then a thing I will touch later, you need someone that really is there and audit your dialogues. Train the machine that you can learn, that your team can learn. And what you can be for sure is, and Bogdan, I'm sorry, I know you sent me this note too late. Machines make mistakes.
I ask you to remove that.
I forgot. Machines will make mistakes. It's just a question of how you're going to deal with it, right? We did the way, there are different ways, right? You can do silent launches. You just like prompt the answer, and then your agent reviews it and sets it live. Or you can have different opportunities. Ask your partner, they will tell them what is possible. One thing that you should not forget when you implement all of this stuff, now you are super powerful because you have all the machines that do the dialogues, and you also have a lot of data, you have a lot of customer conversations. And this is independent if you have AI or not. At the end, what you should be aware of, you need to be the one that ensures this feedback loop. Because probably your advisors are the only ones that really talks to the customers. Maybe a few sales guys, but the rest is really the customer care people are the ones that knows what customers really need. So listen to your customers. And we track contact reasons for this. We also measure sentiments on social, because also here our marketing department wants to know, hey, was this ad positive, negative? How did they perceive it? Just measure it and then really loop back those insights to the marketing department, to the product department. One of our learnings was, once we launched the first version of this bottle, This mouthpiece on top of it was designed in a way that people actively need to activate this pot to experience flavor. We thought like, hey, this is a nice gimmick because we said like water in, pot on, flavor up, right? So this was quite simple. So it was designed by default. But what we experienced then was many customers saying like, no taste, it's not working, it's scam. Go to Trustpilot, read all the shit, you'll find it there. And but we also now could tackle it from different angles, right? We could enhance our communication, or what we did is we decided to bring it to the product team, and what they did is like they changed the mouthpiece. So the new mouthpiece now have like small gummy bumpers on top of it, so if you push down the button, it will just jumps back to you. So it will be in the perfect position that from the moment on that you assemble your bottle, you will experience this flavor. So many, many of those learnings. And don't forget, you have the power. You need to play this back. Thomas, how do you measure success? For me, there are many metrics outside. You can measure anything. You can measure handling time of your agents. You can measure first contact resolution, whatever matters to you. For me, it's just two things when we talk about automation and scaling. One, why we are here, is customer happiness. So ensure that your customers are satisfied or happy with the answer you provided. We're going to do this with customer satisfaction score. You saw this probably at the end of the chat. We have the thumbs up, thumbs down. In the emails, we do the same with a follow-up survey. Second one, and this is why we're here, we want to scale smart, right? So it is about the full automation rate. And I'm talking about full automation rate. It does not help me if the machine hits out a template response and the customer gets back to me. It's not fully automated because I anyway need a workforce at the end. And this is also data from us. So in November 2023, left side, when we had the button-based chatbot in place, we were quite good. CSAT was around 50% and full automation rate in the chat was around 50%, which is nice. Then we implemented Gen AI, and this is the stats from last month. We have been at 88% full automation rate, and CSAT was above 70. And this was not just like by accident. We really had a team, and this is a whole transformation that we did. At the beginning, I had 20 advisors in my team. Today, I have 5 advisors in my team. The rest is doing automation, operations, and handling of machine stuff. So we also transform everything that's going on here. This is the data of the other channels. You're going to see this. Email, we are at 35% today, full automation rate. The old chatbot does not exist anymore. It was just a slide from the last presentation I did, so you can strike this out. Gen AI, 88%, and also on Instagram, you have a flow-based, button-based chatbot. It does already 90%. Also very limited in direct messages, but it does what it needs. And here, it shows you how powerful we are with this. And now coming to my favorite section, because we're running slowly out of time. I wish I knew this before. This goes hand in hand with one of my favorite quotes. It's from Eleanor Roosevelt, the former First Lady of the United States of America. She once said, learn from the mistakes of others because you do not live long enough to make them all yourself. That's why maybe today we can also share you some learnings. Number one, you heard this today already before the lunch break. If your processes are a mess, you will automate the mess. Shit in, shit out. So really, really be careful. You need to have processes that work out. If an agent is not able to perform a process, how should a machine do, right? So really, this is the basic. This is the foundation you need to make this. Number two, and my wife hates me for this because I was not that smart at the beginning. I had no one in my team that took care of it. So I did it by my own. And then I was working late at night, and she said, like, hey, come on, it's not possible, Thomas. So I hired a working student first. As I said, today I have a full team that is doing nothing else than training machine, auditing machine, reading dialogues, and then also cross-corrected. And we have powerful tools. In this case, it's provided by DigitalGenius. We can easily say, was the intent detected correctly? Was the response that I provided correctly? Just a smart click, and the machine is learning. But you need to have still people that is doing this, so it's not a secret. And then, last but not least, number 3, set customer expectations. If you do not set customers' expectations, they will set them their own expectations. One example is that we had, when we implemented this Gen AI chatbot, compared to before, button-based. Button-based, you have immediate reaction. You know something is working. Here, you're typing You're waiting. At the beginning, sorry Bogdan, customers waited 10 seconds and we had so many abandoned chats. And we're wondering what's going on? Why are so many customers leaving this chat? Because we did not tell them that they need to wait, because before they were used to different behavior. So you can also hear, we did just one sentence saying like, it's worth the wait, be a little bit patient, I'm draining. Done, job done. People stayed and then they experienced the full journey. And this full journey experience, Bogdan showed you already a few examples before. I also want to highlight one thing, because when you have all the customer care topics covered, what you can do in addition is that meanwhile you can also simply use Gen AI to transform into a sales machine. And this is a scenario from our bot now. Also here, my niece Wilma has birthday, she's turning 10. Which flavor should I buy? So machine goes in and says like, okay, did Wilma already had the experience of an Arab flavor, or what is she loving in general? So I'm pretty broad here and said like, she loves sweets. She loves sweets, yeah, she loves sweets. Now what the machine does, in the back end, we have taken all of our flavors with attributes towards the categories of our flavors. Now the machine goes into the back end, into Shopify, pulls up the data, and now putting them into a shopping carousel where, come on, where Wilma can select. And what is super nice now, personalization. You see, the name is there. You see, the machine remembers that it was for a birthday. And now all the sweet flavors from blue raspberry to chocolate orange are presented. The customer, Wilma in this case, or Wilma's mother, can choose the pots. We take raspberry lemon pots. It's added to the cart immediately. You can continue the conversation into the chat, or you can simply quit it. But this shows also here what potential you do have, depending on what your business is. When you're in e-commerce, for us, it's really, yeah, we are thankful for this very much, because now we are really able to offer a personalized sales recommendation to our customers on top of it. The rest is just like things that needs to be done. This is the CSAT survey. You can submit the feedback, or you can simply leave it out. When you do everything of this and more, then also you will hopefully earn the trust from your customers, and happy customers will share their feedbacks as well. What you see here, right? The bottle was cracked. I had a response within 10 minutes, and my replacement order was shipped the next day. So can be with bot, can be with email, but actually, if you do this great, you will have also happy customers outside.
So what is your secret sauce apart from partnering with the best AI company in the world?
So we are not talking about marriage, I learned this, so we are talking about partnership. Source, there's no secret source. At the end, it's quite simple, right? You somehow need to start, because there are always 100 reasons, if not even more, not to start. And this is usually the big blocker for the majority of the companies. So what we did, just Bogdan, you know this best, right? 3.5 years back, we simply started. And we are not at the end, I know this, but yeah, this is how we managed to build this amazing customer experience for our Arab customers, thanks to DigitalGenius. Now we are here for your questions.
Hi, very interesting. I have a specific question, because in the beginning you showed a graph of how the customer delight drops when things get busy and obviously nobody's answering. So if you actually tracked how much of customer frustration do you have any metrics that you tracked and that you can share?
For customer frustration, you mean?
Meaning how many cases this bot has handled and actually answered the, basically like, 5 years ago when you started, you didn't have a bot, right?
Yeah.
And humans were there behind it.
Yeah.
But what is the replacement percentage, let's say?
I mean, I think to the big extent, obviously, right now we're automating about 80%.
Yeah, but this was the full automation rate, right? But
Yeah,
this
exactly.
was not also, maybe, I don't know if I get the question right. The CSAT, the customer satisfaction score, we measured for every channel. For email, for chat, 5 years back, we had no chat, so we had no comparison, but we had the first chatbot with around 50% customer satisfaction. And also here, if we would develop this further, we could potentially increase this as well, right? And with email, the CSAT questions at the beginning, or like, yeah, now I know what you want. So our human CSAT once in the first 2 years was around 65%, so when we had no automation in place. And with automation, overall, we are a little above. Not much, but a little above. So at least we managed to stay on the same level for email. Does this answer the question?
Okay, and did you also measure, like, operationally, how much time or hours it reduced for your customer service team?
How much hours I saved?
Yeah.
Yes, I do, but I can't tell you the number because otherwise press would come next day. No, it's a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. How do you handle guardrails within generative AI, so within the chatbot, so that it doesn't talk about competition or doesn't offer alternatives to your products?
Great question. I mean, Bogdan, you're more in detail here.
Yeah. So first of all, there's some built-in guardrails because we focus on e-commerce. So we already built a data set of e-commerce conversations between customer service agents and end users, including a lot of conversations that we marked like, you shouldn't handle those. Competition is a great example, or things about like where else the product is available on some other websites. You can often hallucinate about it. Oh yeah, you can buy our product on this website. So we already kind of through our experience with all the e-commerce brands, and we only focus on e-commerce, saw a number of trends where you can hallucinate or where you don't want it to answer. And our model is optimized for that, not to give an answer. That's in terms of company information, but the other big guardrail is the flows. So when we're deciding whether to perform a replacement for somebody or not, the Gen AI doesn't take that decision. The job of Gen AI is just to understand what the user wants and then route it to the correct business flow. In that business flow, there's no responses, there's no conversation. It just does a check. Is this customer eligible for a replacement because of the status of the order, because of the care information? That is guaranteed to be always 100% per policy because it's a rules-based flow. It's a visual no-code interface where you design those policies. So it's a mix of conversational, natural experience for the end user, so they don't get stuck in a decision tree during the conversation. But there is a decision tree to check the policy, and that's always 100% rules-based.
Hi, so great presentation. In the context of the Gen AI and order status with my name, my email address, my maybe payment information, have you ever had any like legal and data privacy conversation or challenge?
So it depends on what models you use. So we use Microsoft Azure OpenAI service. And what they do, they don't use any of the conversations for retraining the foundation model. They just do predictions. They store it, I think, for 30 days for troubleshooting reasons, but it doesn't train on it. So it's not like next time you talk to ChatGPT, it'll spit out like your details. That's the best way to handle it. Plus, we have our own LLMs we've trained in-house. And again, we don't train it on any data which is not anonymized. First, it's fully anonymized. So there is very little legal challenge when you use Microsoft Azure service.
This is a question for Thomas. What's the craziest customer service query you've ever had?
Greatest customer service, say?
The craziest customer query that you've had?
I didn't understand, sorry.
The craziest question that you've had somebody
the craziest question, okay. Probably there are many. I think that the story with the lawyer was very close to this. Actually, I don't know. I can't remember anything else that stick to my mind as well. Maybe after the talk check with Ragda because she's reading a lot of those dialogues. Maybe she has an answer for this, but thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you. I was actually trying out your chatbot lately, and I saw on the Dutch website that when I was requested the support to be in English, that was not possible. And don't you think you're missing out?
Machines make mistakes, right?
Oh, it was supposed to be a mistake? Yeah, it's constantly saying only in Dutch, and maybe you can use a translation tool.
So what the machine does is, like, from my level of understanding, it usually answers in the question of your browser language. So how you set up your system, right? And as I said, Gen AI is not that long with us, so we try to hit also here 80% of the customer needs, and then we iterate on the 20% that remains. So if this is not working, it's lovely if you write me a mail or a message that we can work also on those things. But it's clear, right? So we'll not work everything by heart, but those are then the tiny things that we need to change. And also here, maybe with the models, with the AI models, we're getting better over time. Bogdan?
Yeah, no, totally. So I'd love to see more of your examples, and we'll check it. But generally, it already has pre-built capabilities to do that, so it depends how it's configured. Sometimes it's configured to like stick to that language because of the way it's set up. And sometimes you can just write. You don't even need to say, please respond in English. You just can write in English or like in Ukrainian. In my case, I'll just respond in Ukrainian. So it depends how you set it up. Our platform is very much like an open world. So you can customize like the tone of voice, the rules, the workflows, as well as how Gen AI behaves. So if you could enable, if you want to enable it, always respond in the language of the customer, you could do that.
Okay, thanks.
Then we have to do this, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good that we are talking.
Very useful event.
Yeah, thanks. All right, thank you very much.
Just one more question.
One more question? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, one bonus question. I was wondering, because you were discussing training the model, right? You can use advisor feedback for that or customer feedback. How are you doing that right now?
So we have a full team that is like really auditing the dialogues, feedback, collecting the feedback either in those tools that we have available, or if it's like bigger things, then we have project management where we really feedback this to DigitalGenius, and then we as a team work on those bigger things, or if it's just like small things that the machine takes, then we just use it to the console that was provided.
Okay, thanks.
But you need to have someone that is auditing all the stuff, right? Yeah.
One more question. What is the source that the model takes the content from or produces the content from? Is it like
good question.
The knowledge bank for advisors, or?
We created a knowledge base together. So you provided the box and we just filled the box with everything. So it's Word documents with 500 pages of content, and there is everything inside. And then we just define like when, for example, like our return conditions or delivery conditions depend from country to country, right? And then we just say like, hey, if you approach us from the UK, ensure that you give this delivery conditions versus when you approach us from Netherlands that you share this. So it's like also like the small things that we put in there, but at the end it's one box.
And that's for the like FAQ content. But for a question about like, where is my order, where we do replacement, we don't just use like policies, we actually perform the replacement, and then you can provide a summary of what it should say, and then we'll just personalize that to that conversation. So that's more like a flow-driven versus an information-driven versus knowledge-driven.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Again, you see a lot of questions popping up when you speak about AI, and you are still here.